In El Paso on and off for about 10 years. I'm not originally from here. I actually moved here for the lizards. I study lizards, among other things. And I'm originally from Michigan, and just don't, lizards are pet stores up there, but that's about it. So I moved here for that reason. I am a biologist, but what we're going to talk about today is another aspect of biology that I ended up having to study a lot about recently because I got very sick. And I noticed that doctors were having a hard time making me better. Long story short, I have a lot of what you'd call autoimmune problems. I'm allergic to almost all foods. Certainly cats and dogs are like kryptonite for me. And it's been that way for much of my life. But as I was getting older and older, things really sort of spiraled out of control. And I started doing a lot of research on my own about both conventional and non-conventional ways to try and correct somebody's immune system. And one of the most important things that I discovered is what we're going to talk about today. It's called Protandim. And I'm really glad to be able to introduce somebody who has really excellent knowledge of this whole topic. His name is Shanahan. He'll be up in a little bit. And he's a nutritional consultant to pro and Olympic athletes. So I've been asking him to come to El Paso because he's just got so much good information to offer. And so you're in the right room at the right time because we've got a really excellent speaker. The story of this Protandim, it actually started almost a decade ago, and then something big happened in 2005. An ABC primetime investigative report aired where they featured Protandim and what it did, and they tell the story much better than I can. So what we're going to do is we're going to just start that little video. It's only like 9 minutes. If you've got a piece of paper and a pen, write stuff down. This is very interesting stuff. And then you're going to be able to ask questions and hear the whole story because it's a very interesting story from a science standpoint and also from sort of a socioeconomic and business standpoint. It's a very, very interesting story that got started almost 10 years ago now. Okay. So I'm going to just start this up. Oh, do I have to turn it on first?
You want it?
Yeah, let's hit those lights. Will that be okay, guys? Okay.
Get an edge on turning back the clock with just a few pills? Who doesn't? Well, it's no longer science fiction, but science possibility, a potential breakthrough. As I found out firsthand, there may be a way to erase years, at least inside my body. Granted, it's down the road, but some scientists are wondering if a new pill I took might offer a very long life. It may not look like the fountain of youth, but inside this nondescript building, I'm about to become part of an exciting experiment, a kind of guinea pig. I can record, okay. I'm here at the University of Colorado in Denver to meet Dr. Joe McCord, a world-renowned scientist. This is a pretty exciting stuff you're finding, huh? It is. We're very excited about it. His latest research could very well unravel the mystery of aging itself. And his decades of experiments may have the potential of adding years to people's lives and possibly prevent chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. It all centers around this small yellow pill, and for me, it begins with a blood test. This will be the first time I've given blood for this company. They want to check my levels of something called T-bars, which is a rough indicator of a person's actual age. T-bars can identify a condition known as oxidative stress, a kind of measure of the wear and tear on our bodies. Oxidative stress, like the rusting of an engine, is not a good thing.
Bad for the body, leading to disease and leading to malfunction, and importantly, leading to what we call aging. It is a slow progression of increasing oxidative stress. That's the main characteristic biochemically of the aging process.
The problem of aging begins with the very food we eat to give us energy. As our cells burn that food, they also release toxic chemicals. Those chemicals, you may know them as free radicals, react with all the components of our cells, literally bombarding them millions of times per second, damaging all our cells. The result? Oxidative stress. And we all have it. The body fights back with a system of defenses. It makes two antioxidant enzymes, catalase and SOD, whose job is to gobble up the free radicals before they can harm our cells.
So, Doctor, how often do I take these?
And so, here I go. With that swallow, I've just become part of a potentially landmark scientific experiment. The Midland. It's called Protandim, and tests on both mice and humans have already shown that it revs up the manufacture of those good enzymes in our bodies. More enzymes, fewer free radicals to harm us. Whether that will lead to longer life is still unknown. Experiments to see if mice live longer are about to get underway, but it's a tantalizing theory.
Right now, all we know is that this preparation decreases oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is not a disease, just like aging is not in itself a disease, but it's something that accompanies and is attached to many disease processes. So you can see the age-related.
Normally, oxidative stress, measured by those T-bars, increases with age. But in Dr. McCord's tests, taking just one pill of Protandim a day reversed that trend for everyone at every age, even for an 80-year-old.
They all are reduced to the level of oxidative stress that one would expect, frankly, in a newborn or a very young child.
Back to the oxidative stress levels of a child? It sounds too good to be true. Will Protandim work on me?
The scientific evidence is there. The pieces seem to make sense. The question is, does this translate into something that humans can take advantage of?
And so, ancient Eastern healing and modern Western medicine may soon be working together. High oxidative stress is associated with more than aging. It's been linked to hundreds of illnesses.
It's at the very center of many diseases. Liver disease, diabetes, emphysema, asthma. I studied all of it, strokes, heart attacks, even mental disease. Yes, depression, Alzheimer's disease, depression.
Dr. James Crapo with the National Jewish Medical Center in Denver is also researching Protandim for the company.
Are you saying that this could be a cure-all? You're looking at something that will have a small impact, but an important impact.
We make no claims about curing any disease or preventing any disease. We hope that when enough studies are done, perhaps such claims might be able to be made in the future.
Clinical studies to assess Protandim in both diabetes and heart disease should start in 3 to 4 months. But what about my progress? After nearly 2 weeks now, it's time to get my results. Dr. McCord calculates the numbers. The result? My level of oxidative stress has declined dramatically.
45%, that's excellent.
Just look at where I fall on the graph, before and after.
Which, if extrapolated back, is the level you would see in a newborn baby.
Have we turned back the clock? Well, maybe not on the outside, but deep inside, within my cells. Yes, indeed.
Would you suggest I keep taking this supplement?
I would. I can't guarantee it's going to extend your life. I can't guarantee it's going to eliminate any diseases or cure any diseases.
But we do know that oxidative stress is part of those disease processes. I don't want to wait until I'm 80 years old and find out that I should have taken it.
For more, go to our website at abcnews.com.
Major universities and government agencies initiated and continue self-funded studies.
So that aired in 2005. And to tell you the story about it, I've got Terry Shanahan here. He's a nutritional consultant to pro and Olympic athletes. And he's been a personal help to me because the kind of advice that he gives, it ended up solving a lot of the health problems I was having. Okay, this is a big part of it, but he's really excellent with giving advice, and I'm so pleased that he can come and tell the story because so much has happened since 2005. Terry?
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We staring into the light. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. It's great to be back in El Paso. This is one of my favorite places to come because I'm surrounded by a bunch of PhDs and people with master's degrees in biology and science. And so I learn so much every time I come here. And Paul has become a great friend. Not only sort of a client of mine and now a business partner, but a really good friend. And it's just great to come here because I learned so much. And so everybody who's here, and I'm talking about some of the people that you're surrounded by great people and really, really smart people. So I just want to share with you guys a couple things today. Mainly about Protandim, but also my passion, my love is nutrition and wellness and making people live a better life. And so I'm happy to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. But they've asked me to mainly focus primarily on Protandim in this video that we just saw, and so that's going to be kind of the focus of my talk. But at the same time, afterwards, we'll have questions and answers, and anything else that you guys want to throw out there, I'm happy to discuss. Because, like Paul said, we both share a passion for wellness and nutrition. But I want to share with you guys a little bit about kind of why I'm here and what brought me here today, essentially. And, I've always been really, really passionate about nutrition and athletic performance and supplementation and just anything with respect to how we can perform better. And my initial passion for that stemmed mainly from, athletic performance. So I, played a lot of sports growing up and in high school. But along the way, I looked healthy but had a lot of chronic illness. And so like Paul, I had some major autoimmune problems, chronic inflammatory problems, chronic respiratory problems, and it actually stemmed back to being born 6 weeks premature. So really my whole life was kind of plagued with these things. And, through that, like I said, earlier on in my life, I was always really passionate mainly about athletic performance, some kind of bodybuilding and stuff too, but mainly about performance. And then what happened is in 2004, I got diagnosed with some major, that's kind of when it was sort of like the perfect storm, I call it, when everything could go wrong, seemed to go wrong. And I saw 27 different doctors around the country. Everyone had a new prescription and had a new diagnosis, but nobody really had an answer to how to fix what was going on. And so at that time, I shifted my focus from performance more towards natural medicine or natural healing, diet and supplementation. And after suffering for years, really 2 or 3 years, being really, really, really sick, being 24 years old and having doctors tell you that, you're not going to be able to work, you're going to live a pretty miserable life, but just take these drugs and go on disability and just try to get by. And obviously I wasn't okay with that. And so I didn't stop there. I kept looking and I found a naturopath practitioner who really, really helped me and changed my life. And within about 6 weeks, I was able to put most of my symptoms, in remission. And within about 6 months, all my blood work was pretty much back to normal. And so when that happened to me, I thought, okay, I could have just, taken these doctors' advice, and I could have just lived sort of a very, pretty much miserable life. But instead, I kind of kept going, and I was seeking the truth, and I found the truth. And so one of the, I guess, things that we often have to remember is, where are we getting the information? There's a lot of information out there that has ulterior sources, whether it be financial or certain industries. And what I learned is that a lot of this stuff we learn is actually wrong, whether it be about nutrition or supplementation or medicine. And it's really, really unfortunate because a lot of people just take that advice and go on with life. But today, we sort of have something that sort of fits the mold, that kind of goes against science, kind of goes against what we think that the truth is. But the great thing about it is we have a ton of scientific research. So with respect to my story, after I went through these major health issues, I was determined to help as many people as I could, and so I started doing consulting work and helping other people with autoimmune issues like Paul, but they kind of carried into working with athletes. And the reason is what I learned is that there's sort of two things that are really at the root problem of almost everything, any condition or disease or illness or anything that we have wrong with us, there's two things that play a huge role. One of them is oxidative stress, which they just touched on in that video, and the second is inflammation, and the two kind of go hand in hand. But with myself, I was able to lower oxidative stress and lower inflammation. I was able to literally heal myself. And so what I realized is that athletes, professional athletes, Olympic athletes, just even high school athletes, kids, a lot of times they suffer as far as recovery or getting injuries and stuff. It's all about inflammation and oxidative stress. So I took my knowledge, and then that's sort of how I started my business working with athletes. And so because I was kind of doing counterintuitive things that a lot of these athletes had never seen, some of them were willing to give me a shot because they had nothing to lose. And I just kept getting great, better and better results one after the next, and was able to work with, high caliber athletes and really help them. But as I was running that business, that's how I got introduced to Protandim, because I was always looking for better things. And I wasn't a big believer in supplementation. I believe that there are some supplements that can work, but the problem is that a lot of them don't have very good science. They don't have peer-reviewed science. They don't have credible science that's going to hold up, like when we're talking to, scientists and PhDs and medical doctors and people who really need hard science. A lot of the supplements that we have on the market don't have that. And so I saw Protandim because I was looking. I had an athlete that I was working with who was on some major anti-inflammatories, painkillers for his joints, and he knew he had to get off them, but he didn't know how. And through that, I found Protandim through a colleague of mine in San Diego. And so he showed me this video, and I saw the video, and because of my background, I picked up on some things in the video that were just amazing to me, okay? So the video talks about oxidative stress, but there's a lot of things that it doesn't mention. There's a lot of things that I found out through my additional research to talking to guys like Paul that Protandim can actually do. And when I saw it, I was just amazed, because what I learned, there's no drug, there's no other supplement in the world that can do what Protandim does. And so I kind of started to have to sort of switch my stance, because I'd always told people, no, you need to worry about lifestyle, proper training, nutrition. You don't get hooked on all these supplements. I mean, that's okay. There's some benefit to them, but we have to focus on lifestyle. But what I found is that Protandim was actually able to do things that I couldn't do for my clients just with proper nutrition and some minor supplementation and proper training and proper lifestyle. And so Paul said, there's more to the story. And so we actually have 10 peer-reviewed published studies on Protandim now. And so in that video, they're asking Dr. McCord, hey, is Protandim a cure-all, or does it do this or does it do that? But at the time the video was shot back in probably 2004, it aired in 2005. But at the time it was shot, they didn't have all this science, and so they knew that they could probably make some claims, but they didn't know exactly what. So now we know about the product. We know that it's a major anti-inflammatory. Okay, so it's proven through published peer-reviewed research that it is able to lower C-reactive protein. So it's anti-inflammatory, hugely anti-inflammatory. Inflammation is at the root cause of many diseases. The first thing we know from Protandim that they touched on in this video is that it lowers oxidative stress. And so oxidative stress isn't actually like a disease or a condition, but it's something that all of us face. And if we're active, we actually have more oxidative stress than somebody who's not active, which doesn't make sense. But if we're doing a lot of working out, or a competitive athlete, or we just live a stressful life, we're inducing more oxidative stress on our body. And so oxidative stress is something that's well studied. We know a lot about it. There's about 97,000 published papers on oxidative stress. So it's one of the most studied topics in all of medicine, oxidative stress. And so if you go to a website called PubMed.gov, it's like the government's Google of all legitimate, published, peer-reviewed research. Protandim has 10 studies on that site you can find, but there's 97,000 on oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, if we look at those 97,000 and we break them down, there's about 200 different diseases that are directly correlated to oxidative stress. So we don't know what came first, the disease or oxidative stress, but we know for certain that there's a very powerful correlation to oxidative stress. And Protandim has been shown time and time again through research to reduce oxidative stress by 40 to 70%. So whether you're a person who's chronically ill or whether you're a young person who's active and athletic, it doesn't matter. We all have oxidative stress, and this is the first thing in the world I've ever seen that can actually combat it and has been proven to be able to combat oxidative stress. So that grabbed my attention. The other thing we know, I could go on for 2 hours about the science, but I'll touch on maybe 2 or 3 more things about the product. We know for certain that Protandim is also anti-fibrotic. So fibrosis is actually scar tissue. Okay, so many of us in the room have scar tissue. It might be like, heart disease. So a big part of heart disease is actually scar tissue, fibrosis of the arterial walls. And that is measured actually through different proteins that we can measure in blood work. We can figure out, the levels of different proteins in your body. And so Ohio State University did multiple studies on Protandim with heart disease, and they got incredible results. And then there's going to be more and more research down the line. So we know that Protandim is anti-fibrotic. It breaks up scar tissue in disease or in, just joint pain. Another thing we know is that Protandim is actually an anti-tumor. Okay, so Louisiana State University has done research on Protandim with respect to cancer, and more specifically skin cancer. And their research has been incredible, and it's shown that Protandim has literally been able to break up tumors and reduce the spread of tumors. So it's an anti-tumor. We also know that Protandim is hugely boosting of the immune system. And we also know, we now know, the final thing I'll touch on is that it increases something called glutathione. Glutathione is actually your body's master regulator of detoxification. So a lot of us have heard in the news about, it's popular to do these cleanses or to do these different things. And all we're trying to do is detox ourselves. The problem is it's usually like a 3-day or a 30-day cleanse. And then as soon as you're done with it, you go right back to putting toxic things in your body. So it's not really it's just a little Band-Aid. And so that's the problem I always had with people who wanted to do cleanses. I said, well, that's great. You do the cleanse and you feel good for a couple of days, then you start eating poorly again, and you're going to just start having the problem all over again. But our body actually has antioxidant enzymes that are millions of times more powerful than anything we can put in our body like a direct source, like a supplementation. And so these enzymes, glutathione is probably the most powerful one. And if you want to Google that or look at abclivit.com, there's a bunch of information on glutathione, and it's incredible. With autoimmunity, with all kinds of different neurological diseases, glutathione is incredible. And so Protandim doesn't have glutathione in it, okay? But what it does is it naturally induces your body's ability to produce glutathione. And that's crucial because as we age, our body stops producing glutathione the levels that it used to. And if we're sick or if we have some sort of disease or condition, it's going to be very, very taxing to our body, and our body's production of glutathione will go down. So I could go on for days about the science, but there's 5 or 6 things there that I like to touch on that are incredible. And the reason that they're so incredible is that we do not have another answer or another solution or another product on the market today that can do these things. And so, through my work, I just felt that like a lot of supplement companies, they fund their own research. There's a lot of marketing hype. And so I was always very skeptical of different products, and I wasn't going to put my name on them because my clients are paying me for third-party advice. My clients also are very educated, and they have team physicians. They have chiropractors, physical therapists, massage therapists. They have a lot of medical professionals that surround them. And if I'm pushing some random product, there's no science on them, that's not going to be good for me or for my career. And so I was always very skeptical of supplements, as I keep saying. That's kind of a common theme. And so my biggest question after I saw all this research, and after I, had a bunch of clients on it, and I took the product personally, and everybody's calling me saying, I need more of that Protandim, I need more of it, why, what's going on? And you just keep hearing story after story after story of how it's helping people. And so I finally, became a little bit more open to talking about it or educating people about it or promoting a product for the first time in my career. And the reason was simply because of the science and because of the results that my family and my clients were getting with the product. And that just totally changed my viewpoint of a lot of things. And so my question was, though, to the guys that introduced this to me and the medical staff at LifeVantage is the company that produces Protandim, was, okay, it is my job to know about this kind of thing. This is why people pay me to know about this type of thing. And if this has been on the market since 2005, I feel like I've been doing my clients a total disservice by not sharing this with them for the last 6 years. You know, because I didn't even, well, maybe the end of 2010 is I guess when I found out about Protandem. And so my question to them, why haven't I heard of this? If this is real, if this science is real, if this video is real, why haven't I heard of it? Because me of all people should hear this. I mean, it's my job to know these types of things. And so the answer was really, really interesting. And so this sort of gets into more of the company story of Protandem and of LifeVantage. And the answer was that the product actually sat on store shelves like in GNC and High Health Nutrition and CVS Pharmacy, you know, big retail places that, depending on where we live in the country, we probably drive by one of those almost every single day. It was there. It was sitting on the shelves. But if any of you, for example, I've had friends of mine in high school who worked at GNC, and no offense to them, they weren't the sharpest guys in the world. And they would generally call me. They're the ones that work there and have been trained, and they call me. Hey, I got this client here who's asking about this. What should I tell him, you know? And I'm like, why are you calling me? You're the one that works at GNC, you know? And so, as you can imagine, I mean, we have PhDs and medical professionals and nutrition professionals who are trying to explain Protandem to you guys, and it's difficult. It's really hard. So how do you think that those kids in those stores, or the clerks at those stores, were actually able to explain the product? They weren't. They just weren't, because it's a complicated thing and the story needs to be told. And so even though there was research, and even though they had Dr. McCord, one of the top scientists in the world of free radical biology, and even though there was an ABC primetime special that ran, the company just didn't do well. I mean, they were a national company in retail stores all over the country. They had never done more than about $3.5 million in sales in a single year. And so to some of us, that's a lot of money, but for a company that size, it's not good. They were losing a lot of money over and over again. And so what happened was, after this video ran, they actually had a huge demand for product. So they had never done more than $3.5 million in a year, and after this video ran, in the next 60 days, they had about $10 million in orders. Okay? So people were, the word was spreading. I mean, word of mouth. You got to see this Protandem. I just saw this ABC primetime video. It's amazing. And that was just spreading like wildfire. And so at the end of the full-length version, you guys saw clips of the segment. But at the end of the full-length version that aired in June of 2005, they said, for more questions about Protandem, please contact ABC News. And so people were contacting ABC News like crazy. They were getting annoyed. They were just forwarding information to LifeVantage. LifeVantage, as you saw some of those guys, some of those, you know, I guess science nerds in the video playing with mice and lab coats and stuff like that, that's who phone calls were getting forwarded to. Well, they were busy doing their science stuff. They weren't returning calls. They didn't have a customer service department. They didn't have marketers. They didn't have anybody to do anything. And so literally a lot of orders went unfilled. And then when the board of directors finally got wind of how many orders had not been filled, they also realized, wait a minute, we don't actually have enough product to ship. So there was a huge, huge, huge problem at that time with respect to just fulfilling the orders and having the company move forward properly. And so what they did is they said, okay, we need new leadership. We think we're the real deal now. We have all these orders. We need to capitalize on this. It was a publicly traded company. The stock went up to nearly $20 a share, and then it sank down. When I bought stock about a year and a half ago, it was 38 cents a share. So they rode this roller coaster, and they ran the company into the ground. And at the root of this, they still had a board of directors that said, okay, we have something special here. We have something real. We need to figure out how to get out of this hole. And so they didn't give up. And what they did is they actually recruited away another CEO. They wanted a new leader to take them sort of to the promised land, to take them to be an elite nutritional supplement company and to get this product in as many people's hands as possible. And so they recruited a guy named David Brown. And David Brown's background, he's an attorney. He's very good with contract negotiation and patent law. And they recruited him away from a company called Metabolite. And so Metabolite, if any of you have heard of, it's a $1 billion supplement company. They had a lot of weight loss products and things like that in the 90s. But they recruited David Brown away, and they did so with stock options and basically with the science. They said, hey, Mr. Brown, with all due respect, you've grown this company to a $1 billion company, but you don't have patents, you don't have science, you don't have peer-reviewed published science, you don't have Dr. McCord, you don't have ABC Primetime. So we think that we have something special here. He agreed. He came on as their CEO. And the board of directors said, okay, David, thank you so much for coming on. We know you have experience with these big-time retailers, with Walmart and with Target and these big companies. and we want you to get Protandim in there. And he sat back and he said, okay, so you're telling me right now you're in GNC, you're in high health nutrition, you're in CVS Pharmacy, and you're not selling, but you want me to now put them in mass retailers like Target and Walmart? Why do you think that's going to change anything? And so they battled. I mean, they really, really battled. And he stood firm and he said, what I think we need is we need people who are educated professionals who are out there telling the story, sharing this product with people. And so that's what kind of brings us here today, because it all started with his group of about 14 people that he recruited personally that had experience in direct sales, in sort of network marketing capacity with nutritional supplements. And they gave David Brown a 6-month trial. They said, okay, we'll give you 6 months to prove to us that your model's better than our model. And he said, fine, I'll take that challenge. And so that group of 14 grew and grew and grew and grew. And in their first 6 months, they actually outsold the retail model by 300%. So it was a huge, huge victory. And so at that time, the board of directors said, okay, you're right, we're wrong. We're taking completely out of retail stores, and we're gonna let it be sold strictly through direct sales. And so that's what kind of led us to this story today. So one of those original 14 guys found a guy in San Diego, California, who's a big-time wellness video blogger, who's a good friend of mine, Sean Croxton. He has undergroundwellness.com. Some of you may have seen his work. But he's the guy that introduced it to me. And so we're kind of at the beginning of this we're a couple generations into this business and this opportunity. And so that's sort of the company story, but that really answered for me the biggest question, why haven't I heard of it? And that's why I hadn't heard of it. So taking a step back to sort of, my career in nutrition, and Paul and I talk all the time, and we have answers for many people in this room. If you have gut health issues, if you have depression, anxiety, if you have autoimmunity, if you have even cancer, heart disease, diabetes, the list goes on and on and on. I have very, very clear-cut answers on how you can change that, okay? But it's a really strict, hard diet that most people won't do, okay? And so that was one of the most frustrating things about my career, is that if I tell you, you can't have any dairy, you can't have any grains. When I say grains, I mean bread, pasta, corn, rice, on and on and on. No grains, zero. How many people are going to jump up and do that? Most people won't do it, okay? And so I began getting very, very frustrated when I had the answer, and I know business partners of mine like Paul had the answer to help so many people, but we were only helping like a small fraction of them because 90% of them weren't willing to take our advice. And so that began to get really, really frustrating for me. And so I was, people said, well, isn't there an easier way? Can't I just do it halfway? Isn't there a supplement I can take? No, the answer was always no. You have to do it this way. It's black and white. Either you do it or you don't. You get well or you don't. And so when Protandim came along, it really, really kind of changed my whole outlook and my whole view. Because for the first time, I could say, well, I want you to do it my way. And if you do it my way, you're going to get well. But if you don't do it my way and you just want to do something easy, like take a supplement, take a product, then this was the answer. This was the first thing that I could seriously say with 100% certainty that it was going to help everybody. And so that's why I've sort of transitioned now, and a lot of my time is spent traveling around the country educating people about Protandim. Because I believe, and Paul and I have the same belief, and a lot of other people in this room who are involved, we have the same belief that it's probably our best use of our knowledge and our resources is to continue to educate people about this and just to help people take a step in the right direction with their health. And so that's sort of, again, what has led us here today for that. And so now, from the standpoint of talking more about the business side, so some of you are here, just because you wanted to talk science or talk nutrition or whatever it may be, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. And so what I'd like to do now is maybe talk science. I want to do some Q&A for a couple minutes, anything you guys want to talk about. And then after that, I'm going to talk about the importance of kind of what we see from a business standpoint and why the opportunity is so exciting. And there's really just about two main points that I'll get into on that. So we'll take a break real quick and see if does anybody have questions sort of more on the science or on the... Yes?
So I'm wondering which peer-reviewed journals these publications have been,
Sure.
or the public, it's been published in.
Sure.
And
If anybody wants to fund that, let me know. That's our goal. I mean, that's sort of a vision that some of us have, is to hopefully get more science on that. The first realm, as far as nutrition, would be called paleo nutrition, the paleo diet, and that's what I've had amazing results with people, quite frankly. And there's variances of it, and there's things we change for different people. But paleo nutrition is the answer, and the second thing for tandem. So to answer your questions, that was the two points, I guess, or two answers to your question. What I wanted to know before I even looked at the journals is who's funding these studies, because to me that's a big red flag. I mean, there's a lot of supplement companies that claim they have research, and they do, but they fund it. It's in-house funded by their doctors. They're writing a check. So not to say that all that's bogus, it's not, but it can be twisted, and it's not as credible. And when I'm there's 4 or 5 PhDs in this room right now, probably, or people who are finishing their PhD. Okay, there's no way I could go to them and say, hey guys, I got something great to show you, if I didn't have true peer-reviewed research, it wasn't independently funded, and the journals weren't credible. So there's different journals, but probably the biggest one that carries the most clout is the Journal of Circulation, which is the Journal of the American Heart Association. Protandim is the first branded supplement to ever be in the Journal of Circulation, which is the Journal of the American Heart Association. So that right there grabbed my attention, and to this day, I tell a lot of medical professionals, it's in circulation, and they just, not what? They kind of do a double take. But you need to tell me your natural product in circulation, and well, I'll believe it when I see it. Then I email them the journal. But there's other journals. I mean, what are some of the other Journal of Free Radical Biology? There's 5 or 6 different journals. We can email you that information though if you want to. But if you go to PubMed, if you just go to PubMed.gov, type in Protandim, all 10 will pop up. So, good question.
I think another one is molecular aspects of medicine.
What does the FDA stand on all of this? Just nutritional supplements, so then they don't get them all?
Yeah, so we don't need, because we are it's sort of a gray area, but the stance is that because Protandim, we don't make any claims to treat, prevent, cure any disease, so we're not a drug, so we don't have to have FDA approval as a drug. So Protandim is a nutritional supplement, it's a food essentially right now, but we can show you journals to show you some things that are on disease specific states. And so that leads me to another point. I always wanted to know sort of what are the pharmaceutical companies doing? Like if this company is, in 3 years has gone from $3.5 million to over $100 million in sales, the pharmaceutical companies have to have their eye on this thing. And the way this product works is it's a NRF2 activator, which is NRF2, and that's a whole 99.9% of medical professionals don't know what that means because it's so new. Not new like yesterday, but new like in the last 5 years. And so NRF2 activation is essentially a pathway in our body that controls gene expression and controls enzyme production. And so the pharmaceutical companies have taken notice of Protandim and what it's doing and of the research. And so 2 pharmaceutical companies, Abbott and Reata, just underwent a $400 million transaction to produce a synthetic NRF2 activator. Because Protandim has 4 patents. So there's essentially, those patents protect any other natural product or supplement from coming to the market as a NRF2 activator, but not drug. And so these drugs are synthetic, and so actually I believe it's a great thing for Protandim, because here's why. Because the beautiful little pharmaceutical reps are going to go in there and educate these doctors on what NRF2 is. And so now when we go to our doctor and we show him Protandim and say, can we take it? And he looks at it and says, NRF2 activator. Wait, NRF2, where'd you get this? They're going to know, the medical community is going to now know what NRF2 is and how powerful it is. Okay, so they're spending $400 million just to create a synthetic one, but they're actually pretty far along in human trials. And so some of the information that's coming out, you can look up Abbott and Reata and NRF2 activation. And they claim it is a new class of drug that is going to be like a new age revolutionary anti-inflammatory product. And the diseases, they're looking at a ton of diseases, but the 2 most advanced ones that they're looking at are MS and renal failure. So these drugs that are NRF2 activators that are going to treat renal failure and NS, they've shown. I mean, they're in third phase of human trials. They're going to have to get FDA approval and go through all the paperwork and all the filing fees and everything. So I think I don't have a good answer, but my gut is that's probably 3 to 5 years away from being on the market, and you're going to need a prescription for it to get it. So
So I don't know if it's appropriate to ask, but what's the cost of the supplement?
it's only $1,000 a month. Just kidding. It's $40 for a month's supply. Yeah, it's $40 for a month's supply. So it's very affordable. There's probably other supplements you take that you don't need to take when you add Protandim to your protocol. You can keep taking everything. There's been shown to be zero drug interaction, no interaction with other supplementation through the research up to this point. So, yes.
Tagging on that, if you're taking chemotherapy, how do you see taking antioxidants?
Great question. So there's new research now from LSU and also some inside company research to show that, and you can look at the papers from LSU and they talk about the science of this, but Protandim is extremely protective of the cells, and so when you do chemotherapy, obviously you're damaging cells across the board. You're indiscriminately damaging cells to kill the cancer cells. And so Protandim is extremely protective of the non-cancer cells, and actually has been shown to sensitize the cancer cells to chemo or radiation. So it's been extremely successful.
Why would this work in the hotel? We had a situation there in our home.
Sure.
And we were told to take completely off of antioxidants, all of them, because you're taking chemotherapy.
Sure.
So you're saying that Protandim will support, whereas the vitamin C and all those won't?
Sure. And let me just clarify real quick. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I can't give medical advice. But all I can tell you is what we've seen, and I can speak about our journals. I would just tell you this. I would tell you to never stop doing research and trying to find the truth, because a lot of the information we get is wrong. And I'm not saying that anybody gave you wrong information, but I would just tell you to keep looking into things. And there has been science to show. My understanding from talking to some physicians is that, when you're undergoing chemotherapy, you want some free radical damage because of those. That's sort of how the chemo kills the cancer. And so they don't want those things to interfere with the chemotherapy or radiation treatment. And so that's understood. The difference is those are direct antioxidants. So a direct antioxidant is something you're putting in your body synthetically that's going to sort of scavenge up or kill free radicals. Where Protandim is something that just induces your body to do what it's naturally doing. And so there's nothing Protandim is not a direct antioxidant, so it's not going to interfere with that process. But it's going to induce your body's production of enzymes that are going to be very, very protective to you. So that's sort of the difference. Sure.
What's the age that people can start taking this?
We usually tell people, over the age of 18 is probably the most appropriate. However, if somebody has a disease, a condition, an ailment, or is a competitive athlete, we see people much younger taking it, even kids. I mean, I've seen children with autism or children with horrible allergies or asthma or things like that who are 8, 9 years old who take it. One of our colleagues is a doctor in Phoenix, and his wife took it the entire time she was pregnant, the entire time she was breastfeeding. We look at it as a sort of a food, and so it's like, obviously when you're pregnant or nursing or children, our children unfortunately eat way more dangerous things than anything in this, as far as like worry for complications or doing something wrong. But in general, if a child is healthy or a person's healthy, there's probably not a big need for it until after the age of 18.
What are the ingredients?
Yeah, great question. So the ingredients, there's 5 ingredients, and they're green tea extract, ashwagandha, bacopa, turmeric, and milk thistle. And so it's not even really about that's a good question, because more questions and more stuff I realized I forgot to say. So the 5 ingredients come together and they're synergistic. Okay, so you guys have heard of synergism before, but sort of like, 2 + 2 = 8 for some reason. And so that the 2 things come together and they produce a result much greater than the sum of their parts. And so with synergism, what we've seen is that the company, the first patent document in the first study, they did 268 different trials with these 5 herbs to see if they could get nerve 2 activation. And there was only one in the 268 trials that did have significant nerve 2 activation. It was 1,800% greater than any other trial. So it's not really about the 5 herbs that's in it, it's the blend and the synergistic effect that they have on our nerve 2 pathway. So I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, those are great herbs. I take them. I don't need Protandim." You know, true, they're great herbs. You take them. However, you're not getting the synergistic effect that's causing nerve 2 activation. So that's something that's difficult to always explain or to teach people. But I believe if you're taking those 5 herbs individually and they're high quality standard extract herbs, you're probably going to be way cheaper even taking Protandim, 1 pill that has a 5 in it, and you're getting the nerve 2 activation. So, good question. Any other yes?
You mentioned anxiety and depression.
Yep.
Depression, obviously, some type of mental illness. How exactly does Protandim affect the mental state?
Yeah, good question. And I don't want to. I want to be careful with this answer because I always want to lead with science and with facts. And so I have some hypothesis or some things that I believe based on what I've looked at. So we have neurological studies underway. There's 10 studies out that are peer-reviewed and published. There's 22 more underway, and multiple ones are neurological based. And so we're going to have answers to that very soon. But the one thing that I can lead you to is to study glutathione. So if you study glutathione, which I mentioned, Protandim has been shown to increase or upregulate dramatically. Glutathione is crucial for neurological conditions, for depression, anxiety, disease. Okay, glutathione is also crucial for tissue repair, so of the GI line, and not just the GI lining, all tissue repair, but especially the GI lining. And if we do some research, again, unfortunately, the traditional medical community doesn't teach us this because there's not a drug that they can sell to fix it. But a lot of times gut health is a result of a lot of neurological problems like depression, anxiety, OCD, different sorts of conditions like that. And so if we can heal the gut, we can then improve those conditions. And so glutathione is extremely gut healing, rebuilding the tissue, repairing the gut, as well as protecting the brain. So I lean towards glutathione to answer your question, but we have research that will be out.
And you keep on talking about scar tissue, like you mentioned MS. Obviously, that's probably tissue that's been scarred. And is that alleviating that scar tissue, or exactly what is it doing towards the MS?
So speaking of nerve 2 activation and MS specifically, I can't talk about MS with Protandim yet because we don't have research on that. But the pharmaceutical companies have an MS drug. I mean, one of these drugs, there's 2 drugs, BG12 and bardoxolone are the 2 drugs. And they're looking at MS, and one of them right now they're showing us, and this is crazy when I say this, but look it up. Google this stuff. Their nerve 2 activator that has been shown to not be as powerful as Protandim is showing a 69% reduction of lesions on the myelin sheath. So I mean, it's crazy the stuff that these companies are saying, and they can say it. They can say treat, prevent, cure because they're synthetic drugs. But we can lean on and say, well, what's the mechanism as to how that drug's working? Well, it's nerve 2 activation. So.
Dr. McCourtney mentioned on a video I saw recently about this company Ingenuity that produces some kind of study on samples that they send. Can you explain that a little bit? I don't know.
Sure. And there's probably some people in this room that are better qualified to explain that than I am. So maybe I'll let Paul touch on that as well. But my understanding is that this company is basically they basically track all genetic research. So any university around the world who does research on gene expression with respect to disease, whether it be cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, anything, they track gene expression. So if this group over here is doing a study on colon cancer, and the company you mentioned is going to go in and say, okay, what genes have you identified that improperly express themselves in colon cancer? And then they track that. And so they have data from all over the world. And so we know, like, for example, I'm making this number completely up, so don't take this literally, but we know that, for example, maybe in colon cancer, there have been 66 genes that have been identified as improperly expressing themselves in anybody, any patient who has colon cancer. Okay? So then we can look at that gene expression and we can say, okay, what does NRF2 activation do to that gene expression? And so maybe, Paul, do you want to talk about the paper that was out? Because it's kind of, the answer to your question is sort of what I'm saying, but there was a paper that the 9th paper maybe that came out was more of a review article, and it was looking at gene expression. So anytime there's a disease, you have either upregulated or downregulated gene expression. Improper.
This was recently, right?
This is recent.
Like in March?
I believe so.
I think that one came out in November of last year. And what he explained was a really good explanation. They've become really interested in science recently in something called epigenetics. So like you have your genes, but sometimes your health depends upon which of those genes are being expressed at what time. And certain diets can end up causing inflammatory related genes to be expressed. Okay, and some of you may be familiar with the research of Dean Ornish at UC San Francisco. He's a doctor, and he's shown that he can reverse heart disease through diet. And that's a big deal, and it's through this, it's through the epigenetic effect. Well, because Protandim, it's basically an epigenetic tool. It's signaling certain genes to be either downregulated or upregulated. And so the company has started to sort of mine the world's data on what is upregulated or downregulated, meaning what is expressed more or less in all these different diseases. And the 3 that were featured in that paper were atherosclerosis, colon cancer, and what was the other one? It was atherosclerosis, colon cancer.
Was it in this? Or no, was it?
Oh, it was Alzheimer's. That's right.
Alzheimer's, yeah.
Which 3 once again, please?
Alzheimer's disease, colon cancer, and atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries. Okay, so they picked those 3, and what they showed was the signature, the genetic signature of what's expressed in those diseases was in fact almost the exact opposite of what is expressed when a cell is under the influence of protandim. So, and then that's how we learned about bardoxolone, methyl, and VG12. These drugs that are coming out because they mined the pharmaceutical company's preliminary data on the phase 3 human trials, stuck that in the paper. And then they did some work on broccoli, they did some work on protandim, and it showed how these different things affect gene expression. But that's what's going on. Is this is an epigenetic tool? It's something
I think there was a link I saw there somewhere that they said that taking protandim with some of these medicines that have a lot of side effects, taking protandim alongside will help to regulate those side effect. It will reduce the side effects or the effects of those because because it's a NRF2 activator. And so I thought that maybe that was the research that was brought out in March. So I haven't found it, I haven't seen it, and I thought maybe.
Yeah, if you go to PubMed, just go to PubMed and type in, and I think it's probably the 8th one, the 8th study that'll come up, 8th or 9th. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
And yeah, I recommend reading that study first because it's a review of what NRF2 does. So if you read that study,
What the title of the article was?
I can look it up.
Yeah, it was called.
Fernanda's gonna look it up real quick on the
Okay.
internet. Yeah.
What was the name of the company that you mentioned?
Ingenuity?
Yeah, they're like a biotech data company.
Yeah, I was really impressed.
Yeah, it's groundbreaking. I mean, the stuff they do.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, good. Does anybody have any more questions? If not, I'm going to get into kind of the final 2 pieces of this, and we'll stay after. We'll keep talking. And in general, I just want to let you guys know that, for people who are involved with protandim in some way, shape, or form, today's meeting is not totally typical. I mean, we're getting way more sciencey for some people who requested that today, and so I don't want people to think that they have to follow all this science just to be involved in some way, shape, or form, because you certainly don't.
I wanted to mention one more thing I thought was hilarious. He said a lot of somebody said, I don't know who it was, maybe somebody within the protandim company. There's been a lot of multi-level companies that have been led by coaches, and teachers and very influential people. This is the first one that he's seen that is led by scientists,
Exactly.
the nerds.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
And there's several self-proclaimed nerds in here. I'm one of them. But maybe that's why we have so much fun. I don't know.
It's the Nerve 2 one, right?
I'm not sure.
It's the Nerve 2 one, right?
I think the paper you were looking for is called Oxidative Stress in Health and Disease.
Yeah.
Yep.
The therapeutic potential of Nerve 2 activation. Oh yeah, that's what it's called. Oxidative stress in health and disease.
Okay, so we're gonna sort of wrap up here in the next maybe 15 minutes, hopefully, and then again we'll stay and keep talking for anybody who wants to stay. We thank everybody again. Just thanks for coming today and hearing this information. Somebody obviously invited you and they care enough about you and they think this is important for you to see. And so one of the other things that again a lot of us in this room have come to the conclusion of is that this is a great opportunity. This is not, and it's an awesome product, but because of a lot of different things, we have a great opportunity. Okay, so my passion and my love is nutrition and helping people and wellness and all these things, but I'm entrepreneurial as well. And so when I gave this a full look and I saw all the information, that really grabbed my attention. And so some of the things that we talked about, like it was a great question in the back, do you have any research on paleo nutrition? And there is some, but there needs to be more. The problem is nobody's stepping up to fund it, and there's not a lot of people paying to educate people on these truths or these facts because it hurts the traditional agricultural communities. It hurts big pharma, and those guys are the ones that are in control. I mean, they're in the control of our data. They're in control of the information. And so there needs to be people who have a different agenda in mind, who have some financial ability to fund those studies and have the power to get the right information out to help everybody. And so that's a big reason why I also am doing this and I'm here today, is because I see this as a business opportunity, and I see it as a way sort of for freedom for me to be able to educate and to do more talks like this for people for free, and to travel around the world and get the right information in people's hands who need it. The problem is most of us are so stuck in our busy life and our job, and we have financial obligations that we don't have the financial ability or the time freedom to do that. And so that's what kind of brings us into the second phase of this discussion. And so looking at Protandim from an opportunity standpoint, the product's amazing. There's nothing else like it on the market, okay? So, because there's nothing else like it on the market, then that obviously gives us a great opportunity to be the first people to share it with the world. And so there's sort of three trends that I want to share with everybody right now that I think if you understand and research these trends, it will help you see the opportunity we have. One, I mentioned it earlier, the pharmaceutical companies are on their way to trying to create a Nerve 2 activator. However, it's synthetic, there's going to be side effects, and it won't be out for a long time. But they just threw $400 million to create what Protandim already has. We're going to be 10 plus years ahead of them, we're going to be tons of research ahead of them, and it's going to be natural and it's going to be cheaper. Okay, the second thing is there's about $12 billion a day in the United States spent on chronic illness. Okay, so it's treating chronic illness and all the different effects of chronic illness. It costs our country about $12 billion a day. That's insane. I mean, that's ridiculous, okay? And so what I found is that the three biggest diseases, obviously, heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. Those are the three biggest diseases that are plaguing us and forcing us many of us, to spend a large dollar amounts of our retirement income to now correct, all of our health issues. And so it's a huge burden on many, many people. And of those three diseases that are costing us, billions of dollars a day, Protandim has research on cancer, has research on heart disease, and the University of Minnesota is about 4+ years into a research study on diabetes with Protandim. And they've continued to file extensions because the results have been so great. And so we have an answer to those problems. The final thing is, people say, well, what's the market for this? Well, obviously anybody who has oxidative stress is the market for Protandim. And so that leads us to, probably the primary market would probably be baby boomers. So baby boomers, we know they're, roughly, I think it's like between 1946 and 1964 is the baby boomer generation. And we have about 78 million baby boomers in the United States. So what that means is that, I think the date started up January of last year, so January of 2011 through January of 2029, the 18-year period. There's going to be 78 million people in our country who turn age 65. And they're going to be battling probably one, if not more, of these health issues we've talked about. At the same time, there's many people who are under huge financial stress, and they're having to spend their retirement dollars that they were planning to live on disease and correcting disease. And so we have a huge problem. And so those are three trends that I think are very, very prevalent and very real, and Protandim really has an answer for both of them. And so a lot of us who are involved, we have reasons why we're involved. We have big reasons because we want to do the most good for the largest amount of people. But at the same time, it's able to transition some financial wealth and freedom to us or to this group to be able to continue to pass on the proper information. And so when I think of timing and trends, I was completely adverse to like a network marketing, a direct sales product. Most of them I just thought they just weren't good products, and so if I wasn't going to use them, I wasn't going to have my clients use them. But Protandim, totally, with the science and all the facts, I got over that objection. I still wasn't very comfortable with the whole, network marketing type thing, where you get you get people to take the product and they get people to take the product. But what we found, Paul and I have conversations about this all the time, is we found it's a great model. It's a proven model. Okay? And so in further research on the model, for us to be okay with it, we looked at some things. And there's something that's called like the S-curve of business. Okay? So a company, the board moves. Watch out. So if you just look like at a financial graph, a lot of times most companies, every company has something that's called like the S-curve. Okay? So the S-curve is just sort of, this down here is time, and up here is sales. Okay? So most products, they start down here in a formulation phase, and then at some point the company might actually break even and continue to move forward. Many companies don't make it through the first 3 to 5 years of business because they can't break even or hit a point that's more important called critical mass. Okay, so this point right here is called critical mass. And so what I learned about this is that critical mass happens when a product does about $5 million a month in sales for 12 months in a row. Okay? So most companies don't hit this, but when they do hit it, the companies that have hit it, there's tons of them. I mean, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, other network marketing companies like Amway or like Nu Skin. Those are some large, multi-billion-dollar companies that have rode this wave. And so what we know is that a lot of times the people who are in first in something or who invest first in something are the ones that made all the money. So, for example, in the 1980s, if Bill Gates and his young hippie group of computer nerds came to you with their long hair and they were talking about something we couldn't even grasp, really. And they were talking about computers and the internet and all these things. And if they came to you and said, hey, could I have $1,000 for our startup company? Most of us probably would have just laughed. But if we did give them $1,000, we probably wouldn't be in the room here today because $1,000 invested in Microsoft day one would be worth over $10 million today. So it's all about timing. It's all about when you get in. And so we believe that not only is Protandim the best supplement in the world, something that can change people's health, but it's an opportunity that all of us need to take serious. And so Protandim has actually, this is probably 2005. Well, yeah, 2005. And then somewhere in here is when they went direct sales. So that would be 2010. And so we've gone from about $3.5 million to this year, fiscal year, we're going to do over $115 million in sales. And so critical mass, by definition, again, is $5 million in sales for 12 months in a row. We haven't been doing that for 12 months, but we're doing about $10 million a month in sales right now. So we know that we're around critical mass, but the next phase is rapid growth. Okay, so this rapid growth, it happens one time in the life of a company. So any company you look at, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, any of these huge companies you look at, there was one time, one period, it could have been a 6-month period, it could have been a 6-year period, but it was something called momentum. And they went through a momentum period, and they had 80% of all growth in that one period. Okay? And then they sort of get here, and they're in something called stabilization. Okay? And when they get here, they grow maybe by about 2 to 8% per year. And so these are companies that, like, you know, eventually, you know, you might have some stock in just to diversify risk, but they're not companies you're going to make millions in because they already went through their growth. Okay, so Protandem is publicly traded. You can look up the stock. A lot of people want to look at the financials of the company. The stock ticker is LFVN. And I'll tell you, yesterday it closed at $3.42, I believe. And I got in about a year ago, a little longer, about 38 cents. So there's a lot of people that have already made a lot of money. However, what we're seeing is that Protandem, you know, has all this science and all these things that a lot of these billion-dollar supplement companies don't have. And we're so new that we believe that we're just about to hit this momentum, this period of momentum where there's going to be rapid growth. Okay, so the timing is extremely crucial. So if you're interested in this from a business standpoint, I think the timing is perhaps it's the only thing that's not going to get better. The research is going to get better, the product's, you know, going to get better, the company is going to get better, the distributor support system is going to get better. The trends are what they are, but the timing is the one thing that's not going to get any better, because as we go through this growth, the opportunity is going to be less and less attractive. So that kind of is just a little summary of timing and trends. And so the final thing is sort of, okay, if I want to get involved in this, I'm not a PhD in science, I don't have professional athlete clients, I'm not a sales guy or gal, I don't really know how I could do the business or how I could be involved in this. And so a lot of times those are the questions or objections. And so I've kind of created 3 steps that I feel are extremely crucial to answer that question. Is this for me? Can I do this? Okay? And the first one is just simply, you know, do you want to take the product? Okay? So most people look at that video, they hear the science, they read the studies, and they say, yes, absolutely, I'm going to take the product and all my family's going to take the product. So that's the first thing. Do you want to take the product? The product is $40 per month for 30 days to take it. Okay? LSU did a bunch of studies on skin cancer, and so what they've done is they've actually taken Protandem. This is what the bottle looks like. They've taken the ingredients of Protandem, they've also put them into a skin cream, because the anti-aging effects and the skin cancer effects of Protandem have been so powerful that they wanted to see what would happen if we could put it directly onto the skin. And so there's one product with 2 delivery systems. Okay? So all the studies are on just Protandem, the formulation. Yeah. But Protandem is in, all the ingredients of Protandem are in this in the topical application. So the second thing is, okay, if I'm not, you know, an expert on all this stuff, or I'm not a sales type person or whatever, how can I get involved? You know, what do I have to do? I tell people, you've got to find 4 people who are just friends or family of yours who want to take the product as well. Okay? And so if they're all just taking Protandem, that's $160 a month. Okay, together, this equals $200 a month in sales. This isn't like recurring. You don't need to constantly go out and find new people. You can. I mean, we'd encourage you to. But all this means is that I take the product, maybe my spouse takes the product, and 3 family members of ours take the product. And every month they get a bottle shipped to them. And if you can meet the criteria of just $200 a month in product use, then you have what it takes to do this business. The final and third stage, their final and third criteria is that you need 5 business partners. Okay? So if this is you, we need 5 people who think like you and who care about this sort of thing, and you need to get them on your team. And so we will help train, recruit, do presentations for them, do events just like today, maybe sometimes smaller one-on-one, but we will do that to help you. And if you can find those 5 people, then you will get compensated for that. Okay? So the first phase, the first criteria, you have to be on the product. Second, 4 other people have to be on the product. And then third, you want to find 5 people who are like you who want to maybe be distributors or be involved from a business standpoint. Okay, so what does it look like to be involved from a business standpoint? There's a $630 investment, but that gets you 12 bottles of Protandem and 1 bottle of True Science. So you are free to sell these to recoup your investment. So all you have to do is one time buy the product, $630, and you are a distributor for life. Okay? So if you can find 5 people who are like you who want to be involved from a business standpoint, then you're going to get compensated for that. And the first 3 people that are involved with you business-wise, you're going to get a commission of $210 for each one of those people. So I don't have my PhD. What's 210 times 3?
630.
630? We sure? Okay. 630. What did it cost to get in?
630.
Okay. So you can break even or get completely recompensated from the original product you bought if you find 3 teammates. 630. Okay? For number 4 on forever, for every other person who wants to become a distributor and share this product with people, that's a $260 commission. So if we just get 5 people involved, then we can make $1,150 commission. Okay? Now, this is great, but it doesn't really solve the problem that a lot of people are after. So a lot of people say, well, that's great, but I have a good job right now, or I have a job, but I don't like my job, I don't have the time to do this. There's a lot of people that fall in different categories. And I think the biggest thing that I find in a lot of us who are involved in this is that we strive more so almost for time freedom than financial freedom. So a lot of us don't have the time we want, and if we do have financial freedom, we don't have the time to spend it with the people we care about, or to do things that we believe in, like increase people's health and increase awareness about this sort of thing. So what I found is that most of us are kind of stuck on a linear path. Like we have a job where it's a salary, or we have an hourly job, or we maybe have a job that's a sales job, and so we actually get paid nice commissions to show up and to create sales. But all of these paths, even if you're a doctor or a lawyer or have a great job, you are on a linear path, because if you don't show up, you don't get paid. And so the greatest thing that a lot of people see about this is the residual potential, the potential for them to have time freedom to do the things that they care about. And so there's 6 ways that we get compensated, but the final thing I'm going to show you, this is the very last thing, it's one of the commissions, and it shows people, if you meet these 3 criteria that we just talked about, what this could do, for you and your family from a financial standpoint, for whatever reason that you choose it to do. And so, as I said, there's a $200 monthly commitment that we think that you need to be able to live up to or to do in order to have success in this business. But if you can do that, you can have success. And so the 4th commission, number 4, that the company pays is like a royalty. Okay? So this royalty commission is essentially, this is like our vehicle. So I see Protandem as a vehicle for a lot of people to share knowledge and to share information with others and to get compensated for it over and over and over again. And so this is our royalty, our residual vehicle that most of us don't currently have. And so if we just look at this one commission that they offer, I'm just going to go 4 levels. It actually pays down 9 generations deep. But I'm just going to talk about it at 4 levels. Remember we said we had to have 5 teammates? Okay, that's right here. Remember we had to have a $200 a month commitment in product sales between us and everybody we know? If we do that, this one commission is going to pay us a $20 a month residual check. That's not too exciting. Nobody here is jumping up and down over $20. However, it gets better, I promise. Okay, so the second generation. What we want to do is after we get our 5 teammates, myself and Paul and anybody here who invited you here today, other distributors, what we do is we help you duplicate that. So after you get your 5, you now become a leader. You now help your 5 share this with 5 more people who are going to run with this just like we are. Okay? That duplicates to 25 people. We teach everybody you don't have to be a master salesman selling bottles all over town. You just have to have $200 of product use. This creates a $250 a month residual check. Again, not extremely exciting, but that's $270 a month that's coming in now that wasn't coming in before. This might pay for your gym membership, it might pay for your supplements, it might pay for a utility bill, something like that. The third level gets even more exciting. The company pays a 9% royalty, and if we duplicate, if we just help these 25 get their 5, that turns into 125 people, $200 a month of product sales. Now we have a $2,250 check coming in. Okay? This adds up to $2,500 a month or $30,000 a year. And again, at this level, this is actually, you're actually self-employed, and so you have some tax advantages. And so if you're a typical like W-2 employee, this $30,000 residual check as a self-employed person is actually probably more like making $40,000 to $45,000 as a W-2 employee, okay, because of the tax advantages. The final thing, we're only going to go four levels deep. The final level is if again, your entire group and all the people here help those 5 get 5, we now have 625 people that are running with this, $200 a month in product use, and this takes us to a check of $6,250 per month. But we get all of these, it's cumulative. So that comes out to be $8,770 per month, every month, over and over again, or $105,000 a year. Okay? So depending on what our goals are, most of us could probably reach that or do what we want to do. They could tie up some or give us some time freedom if we were to have this on a residual basis month after month after month. And so these are the things that a lot of us see with Protandem, and it's none of this would be possible without such a great product, such a great company, the timing and the trends and everything that we have in front of us. So that's really about all I want to talk about today. And Paul has a couple announcements, and we'll definitely stay around and answer questions for anybody. And I think we're going to do some distributor training after this as well. But Paul, you have a couple announcements, right?
Yeah. I first just want to thank everyone for coming. This information is super important to me and a lot of people in this room, and I think you can see why now. And we'd love to be able to answer any questions you have. To sort of help us follow up with you appropriately, like, some of you may be interested only in the product. Some of you may be interested in just doing more homework. Some of you may be interested in the business, and you may not know anything about it, but you think we can teach you something about the business and we can show you how to do it. We have a piece of paper up here. We'd like you to just fill this out and let us know how we can help you. If somebody personally invited you today, please get with them and just let them know verbally how we can help you. Because that's our job, is basically the dissemination of the information that you're after. So there's that. Also, there will be a distributor training right after this. So if you're interested in how you can share this with people, that's what we can teach you how to do right after this. And one thing that we're doing in El Paso is we're starting sort of a more intensive training regimen. We're going to do 2 set meetings per week. One is going to be Tuesday night at 7. One is going to be at Saturday at 3:30. Saturday at 3:30 will be at Michelle's house. Tuesday night at 7 will be at Rebecca Escamilla's house. And if you have somebody who you'd like to get this information in front of, bring them. We can, contact us. We can get you the address and all of that. And that's also where we can teach you. There'll be probably like a 45-minute meeting and then maybe like a 20 or 30-minute training. Okay. We want to be consistent about this because, as he mentioned, this is a pretty simple model, but few of us have business experience. And so this is more about training than it is about sales. Okay. And we want to make sure that you're well trained. The next thing I wanted to mention is, if you got somebody who today needs to hear about this, we're doing a meeting at Scott Mormon's Pro Gym on the west side at 3:30 today. And you'd be welcome to bring people to that. Okay? And see me afterwards. I've got the address for that. And then also, this is sort of what we call a Super Saturday format. Within the company, they do trainings on Saturdays. They do like a meeting followed by a training. And the idea is distributors get together and they all contribute to it. To help pay for the venue, Sarah was great and actually got this room here at the hotel. distributors only, I'm asking that you donate $10 to help offset the cost that she invested in this, so that we can have this at a centrally located public place. And you can give the money to her or to myself, and we'll just make sure that way it's sort of spread evenly. Michelle, are there other announcements you'd like me to make? So I'd like to thank you for coming. We'll break for just a little while so that we can chit-chat. You can let the person who invited you know how they can help you best. And then you're welcome to stay, one and all, to learn about how to do this business if you're interested in the business aspect of it. Are there any questions right now? I'll open it up for questions as we begin our break. Okay, let's thank Terry again.
Thanks, guys.